That's a calendar, okay? And that right there is January 1. And so this is the summer down here. This is the summer. So when do you apply? Okay, so when are deadlines? Deadlines for the PhD are very typically December, middle of December, some in January. Frankly, some are also in November and October. So this is happening right now for the PhD. Master's deadlines are all over the map, everything from the middle of December to the middle of April. So, there's master's deadlines are even in here. So if you're applying to top law schools, which we have nobody, how about MBAs? We got any MBAs in here? Okay, so MBAs run either an official or a de facto rolling admissions. So they'll have an open date, which is usually like September 1, and a closing date, I'm just making this up, like December the 15th. My recommendation is to apply in the first third of the cycle if you're after the top MBA programs. If you're not after the top MBA programs, you just have to be ahead of the deadline. Now, here's what here's the I don't know how to put this. Let me give you some advice. Shoot for 10 days early because that's the minimum, okay? Everybody needs to be 10 days early. But let me share something with you about being a STEM student. And of course, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. If you're in STEM, it matters to apply a little bit earlier if you can. Now, if you're flat-footed and you came in here today to find out how to do this, you got to turn your life upside down and get these apps in. So I'm going to be pushing that concept to you today. Those of you who are applying this year, you have plenty of time to do this, but only if you leave this room and start doing stuff. You don't have another 10 days to think about it. You actually don't have another 4 days to think about it. Is that too stressful or is that okay? Tough love, it's okay though, right? I'm pointing out that it's perfectly doable. Okay, so how early is the correct amount of early? 10 days is a minimum because if you mess up, you can still beat it. In STEM, I would shoot for more earlier. Okay. Okay, so that brings up a series of things that you have to get done if you're applying this year, okay? If you have not taken the GRE yet, you need to go out of this room and into a computer and go to gre.org and sign up to take the GRE about 32 days from now. You'll be totally on time if you do this. You won't be late at all. And 32 days is more than sufficient prep time. Ask me, Don, what is the best way to prepare for the GRE? Oh, here's a microphone.
What is the best way to prepare for the GRE?
I'm so glad you asked that at this time. I will tell you the best way to prepare for the GRE. Here's what GRE itself says. It takes 8 to 24 hours to prepare for the GRE. Less than 8 hours of prep, you couldn't possibly be ready. More than 24 hours of prep, and you have a flatline response to your effort, okay? So that's the sweet spot, 8 to 24. I'm kind of paranoid, so I would say 10 to 30. Let's just push it up a little bit. Okay, now if you make your appointment 30 days out, you have more than sufficient time to properly prepare for the GRE. You should not feel that you cannot do this because you can. Here's what we know about preparing for the GRE. People who take full-length practice tests score higher than people that study that same amount of time but don't take full-length practice tests. Full-length practice tests are critical for your performance because it teaches you how to persevere through mental fatigue. Mental fatigue is something that young people today are not used to pushing through. But on the GRE, you can't say, I need a break. I'm going to go outside for a little while until I feel better. That doesn't work, okay? They're like, no. Okay, so I want you to take full-length practice tests. And the other thing that you get out of full-length practice tests is time management. Okay, you got a certain number of questions. You've got to answer them all. The GRE penalizes you rather brutally for not finishing question sets. So you're going to take 3 full-length practice tests. In my opinion, that's a minimum number. And then the 4th GRE that you take will be the official one. And so when you take 3 full-length practice tests, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what score it is that you're going to make. So more hot tips. Study the GRE, don't study for the GRE. Very subtle difference. Don't study the content, study the test and how it works. Spend your time and energy on learning how the GRE works. The GRE has a certain set of standard tricks that they try to use, okay? And once you learn them, they don't work on you anymore. So I'm going to encourage you to study how the GRE works and spend your energy on that more than on relearning complex fractions and geometry. Okay, so those are a few things about taking the GRE. Yes, Professor?
Is there a specific resource that you could refer us to that would
Yes. Yes. Go to gre.org and download all their free study prep materials because those are the gold standard because they're using real retired GRE questions. And then go to magoosh.org, magoosh.org. No, it's magoosh.com. Magoosh.com. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do it. I swear. Okay. Magoosh.com, gre.org. And then I want you to look at some of the books that come with either access to an online version of their own fake test or they come with CDs that you can play on your computer. So I like Princeton Review, Kaplan. Kaplan's coming here next month. And so you can look at those books as well. But the main thing is to use the look and feel of the test every time you practice. And you can get this stuff all the way down to your phone, you guys. So you can practice while you're in line for Starbucks. You can practice taking the GRE all the way down to there. Okay, I will tell you the world's best way to do it, but you don't have time if you're ready in 30 days. But here's the world's best way. Form a small study team with people who are not like you. Okay, so you're a math major. He needs to be a poet. She's a chemist, and he's a political scientist. Why do you do this? Because people teach each other correct ways to take the test. And for example, if you ever see anyone doing long division on the GRE, it's an English major. It's not a math major. Math majors simply eliminate the wrong answers by estimating. But see, if you put a math major and an English major on the same team, she'll teach him how to take the thing. Am I making sense? And then if you get an engineer and an English major on the same team, you know how engineers read? Engineers read every syllable of every word, including all the articles and every introductory phrase. And then they can't finish the question set because they're still reading the prompt when they run out of time. And the English major will say, you can't do that. You got to skim it, then read the questions and go back. So that's what you get by a mixed team. So if you want the top score for the minimum amount of time, form a small study team, study Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and take full-length practice tests, and you'll be ready to take the test in about 3 weeks and 1 day. Yes, doctor?
So I did an MBA program, and I was really annoyed when I found out that they would have accepted the GRE.
Yes.
Matt, are you finding that more and more programs will accept the GRE?
The last I checked, there were about 250 business schools that will take the GRE. And so they're cannibalizing the GMAT. And so my recommendation is take both and turn in the one that you score the highest percentile on. That's my recommendation. And, you know, they still have the Miller Analogies test, but about the only people that take it are some obscure psychology programs. And then for those of you going to law school, there's none of you in here, but that's the LSAT. And for you medical people, that's the MCAT. Here's the bad news for the medical people. You need to take the MCAT prep courses because students with a 4.0 in the sciences are taking the MCAT prep courses. So no matter how good you are, you have to sit through that because that's just the competitive world of pre-medical preparation. So my recommendation is that you do it too. Okay, any questions about the GRE, for example? Or, yes, Professor?
If your program doesn't require you to take the GRE, should you do that anyway?
Yeah, if they don't require it, take it, and if you do well, then you share the score with them. And if you don't do well, you don't turn it in. And the same thing with the subject test. Subject test is optional a lot of places. So if you want to be, for example, a teaching assistant, usually they want you to take that subject test. But you can take the subject test, and if you do well, you can turn it in. But there is one little small problem. The grad schools are now asking for all your scores. And so they make you sign something that says you've turned in all your scores. This is to combat the fact that GRE will let you black out certain scores. I don't know if you guys know this, but they have a thing called Score Select now. So you can take the GRE and not send it to schools, and then if you like it, you can send it or you can send it selectively. Okay, so the schools are combating that by saying that you're swearing to have provided all of your scores. It's an arms race. It's always an arms race. Yes, Professor?
So that would be my question is what happens if you do poorly on the MGRE? You just don't test well.
Well, I could teach you right now how to make your scores look higher. So I'm going to do it. Okay, this is an essay item. Okay, now if you have not taken the GRE yet, my recommendation is that you make your scores actually higher, and then you won't have to do this. And the way to make your scores actually higher is to prepare properly that 10 to 30 hours and really be ready for it. I find that a lot of the people that say they have test anxiety are the same ones who don't prepare very much. They have a different problem, but they call it test anxiety. So what I always say to them, could you breathe while you were taking the test? And they say, well, yeah, I could breathe. Then I say, you don't have anxiety. You have a lot of problems, but you do not have anxiety. Because if you have anxiety, you cannot breathe. Okay, so here's how you make your scores look higher. I'm going to give you a series of models. However, if it's not true, don't say it. Okay, I'm just going to put that on the table. Concerning my GRE scores, you may not be impressed. However, I have had top grades at PSU, and I also had a very weak SAT score, but yet I was a top 10% student in high school. I have established that these types of tests do not predict my academic performance. Please use my grades as an indicator of the type of work I will be doing for you, and disregard these tests, which have proved to be inaccurate in my case. Okay? Okay, I'm a big fan of fighting back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I can do the sections and pieces as well. Here we go. Concerning the quant section of my GRE, I was surprised it was not much higher. I earned an A in calculus, an A in research methodology, and an A in statistics. It's obvious that I have no problem with quantitative reasoning. I'm not sure where this low score came from, but there was a lot of geometry on the GRE that I took, and I have not had geometry since the 9th grade. Frankly, we use a lot of geometry in advanced statistics courses. You see what you're doing? You're denigrating the test slightly, gently, obliquely, and providing alternate evidence. Concerning the verbal section of the GRE, I was surprised not to score much higher. I've always been praised for my academic writing. Okay, but I'm a very careful and contemplative composer of academic works, often writing with a thesaurus in one hand and a dictionary in the other. I found this to be a very artificial way to represent my skills with the English language. Furthermore, I looked it up, and there's 635,000 words in, it's actually 135,000, isn't it? How many words are in English?
No linguists in this room.
Really? It's a lot. I think it's 635. There's 635,000 words in English, and I think every single one of them was on the GRE that I took. It's obvious that we don't need this robust a vocabulary to do excellent academic work in. Name your field. Okay? 1.2 million, 1.25 million. So thank you. Thank you. I'll just say over 1 million. I was going to say over 1 million. And so you fight back, you guys, and you say, please look at my writing sample as an example of the type of work I will be doing with you, and I think that your concerns will be assuaged. Okay, you still with me? Here's another one. Concerning my GRE score, I was surprised it was not much higher. I scored much better on several practice exams. I would be happy to retake the test if it is important to you. You offered to retake it, but you don't. Okay? If they say you have to retake it, then you retake it. But until they say that, you just let that live right there. Okay, so I want you to sign up for the GRE tonight, 30 days out, and get on with this, all of you that are applying this year. And you guys, on those schools where it's optional, take it anyway and see how you do. Okay, it's a rite of passage. Everybody has to suffer through the GRE. Suffer a little bit for your art.